The Last of Us begins towards the end of Joel's birthday. His daughter, Sarah, gives him a watch as a gift once he comes home from work, and she soon falls asleep. She wakes up confused and terrified as the world around her is turned upside down. Joel and Sarah meet up with Tommy, and the three Millers try to get to safety, away from those who have been infected by the cordyceps. However, they run into a soldier who shoots at them, taking Sarah's life. But what if she wasn't the one to die? What if instead, it was Joel? Seeing as how The Last of Us is a character-driven series, it's obvious that the story would be very different without its hero. Ellie's journey to the Fireflies, for starters, would not have been the same, as she likely would have stayed with Marlene for two reasons. One being the fact that if Joel wasn't in her life, Tess likely would not have crossed paths with Marlene at the time she had, as she traveled to Robert's hideout with her smuggling partner. The other reason is that even if Marlene had crossed paths with Tess that day, the smuggler would have still wanted to see the guns before agreeing to bring Ellie out of Boston. Marlene would then have two choices. She could either bring Ellie with her, or tell the immune girl to stay where she was and wait for Tess to return. I don't think Marlene would take either of these risks, as, at this point in the story, she wants to keep Ellie safe but can't keep her alone for too long. Knowing Marlene, she would most likely take care of her wounds on the journey and be the one to bring Ellie to the Capitol building, leaving Tess in the QZ. As Marlene would know where to bring Ellie upon finding the dead Fireflies, Ellie's journey would be much quicker. She wouldn't meet any of the characters that she and Joel ran into on their adventure, Bill wouldn't learn the truth about Frank, Henry and Sam would likely die faster, and the cannibals would continue eating people. Ellie would have died due to the surgery that Jerry performed, and whether a vaccine was created or not, the Fireflies would still fight against Fedra, and Abby wouldn't have any reason to seek revenge as her father would still be alive. If Abby never became a wolf, Lev would have likely died at around the same time that Yara had, who would have passed due to her arm injury rather than getting shot. Isaac would still be alive, and Wolf would more than likely kill all of the Seraphites. The slaves that the Rattlers had captured would still be imprisoned, as Ellie would be dead, and Jesse and Dina would have likely gotten back together to raise JJ once the latter found out she was pregnant. As you can see, the tragedy that the Millers faced when the apocalypse began changed not only their lives, but just about every single person and event in the entire series. As an aspiring author, I often think of the direction I would take a story in, whether I like it or not. Since The Last of Us tells one of my favorite stories I've ever experienced, there's not much I would change about either game, but I can't help but think of what-if scenarios, and I thought it would be cool to start making some videos about them to add more variety to my channel. Therefore, this video isn't really about what would have happened if Joel died, but a story I had thought about in which Sarah lived. Just like in the original game, Tommy would catch up to his brother and niece seconds after the soldier fired at them, shooting him in the head. However, instead of him noticing that Sarah got shot, he sees that Joel is the one bleeding. Tommy would try to help Joel, but it would be too late, and it would now be up to him to look after Sarah. Without Joel being in Tommy's life, he would no longer have to do such horrible things in order to survive, and would try to find a more peaceful way for him and Sarah to live. However, just like in the game, Tommy and Marlene would eventually meet, and he would join the Fireflies along with Sarah. I think Sarah's views on the world would be very similar to Riley's, and that she would be determined to prove her worth as a Firefly, eventually becoming one of Marlene's most entrusted followers. Because of this, Tommy would stay with the group as he wouldn't want to leave Sarah, which means that he would never meet Maria nor go to Jackson. It is also very likely that Eugene would never have left the Fireflies either, seeing as how he went to Jackson with Tommy. Anyways, the Millers would be assigned a mission in Boston with Marlene 20 years after the apocalypse started. Because of this, the fight that Marlene found herself in would play out a bit differently, with the Millers avoiding serious injuries. They would learn about Ellie, and Marlene would trust the two of them to bring the immune girl to the Capitol building. For the most part, Ellie's first night outside of Boston would play out the same way, but neither Sarah nor Tommy would get infected. The following day, the three of them would arrive safely at the Capitol building and discover that the Fireflies there had died. As Ellie is with actual Fireflies who already know that the next place to go is St. Mary's Hospital, her journey is much quicker, and due to taking different routes than she did in The Last of Us Part 1, she wouldn't be unconscious upon arrival. Because of this, she gets to meet some of the other Fireflies, including Abby and Owen, who she gets along with in this alternate universe. With Marlene not arriving at the hospital at this point, Jerry makes the call to go through with the surgery, with only him and the nurses knowing that Ellie would have to die. Unfortunately, Ellie's death does not give the Fireflies a vaccine, and Marlene is infuriated with Jerry when she learns what he had done. As seen in The Last of Us Part 2, Marlene didn't actually want Ellie to die, and Jerry had to convince her to let him go through with the surgery. If they never had this conversation, Marlene would likely feel betrayed by his actions. The two would have a huge falling out that would impact all of the Fireflies, and I think this would cause the group to split up. Tommy and Sarah would stay loyal to Marlene, so Eugene would be on her side as well. I also think that due to how she felt about Joel's death, Mel would end up joining Marlene. The rest of Abby's friends, on the other hand, would be on Jerry's side. Owen would want to stick with Abby, and I think that Manny, Nora, and Jordan would all agree with Jerry's choice. As we never really get to know anything about Leah and Nick, they're not going to exist in the story. Over the next few months, Marlene changes a lot, feeling guilty for what happened to Ellie. Sarah, who had developed a close relationship with the immune girl as well, will also be very sad, but will have grieved in a healthier way than the Firefly leader had. In this story, Marlene is a foil character to Sarah. They had similar goals as Fireflies and would do anything they could for Ellie, but while our heroine tries to move past the immune girl's passing and focus on the future, Marlene becomes obsessed with killing Jerry. Once she accomplishes this goal, a war between the two sides of the Fireflies would break out. Throughout the months leading up to this war, Tommy would begin to think that he should leave the Fireflies. He had joined hoping to make the world a better place and to keep Sarah safe. Now knowing that those two goals would not be accomplished if he were to stay, he convinces both Sarah and Eugene to join him. Shortly after, Abby would lead all of the Fireflies that stayed with Jerry to Marlene's group. When she finds the former Firefly leader, she would torture her a bit, similar to how she beat Joel in The Last of Us Part 2. Marlene would beg for her life, the same way she begged Joel to spare her, but just like in the actual game, she would die. Once their main target is killed, Abby would order her followers to split up into teams that had already been planned out in advance. One of these teams would consist of Manny, Owen, Nora, and Jordan, as Abby believes that her friends would protect each other. As it turns out, Tommy isn't the only person who wanted to lead the Fireflies. During the battle, a couple of newer Fireflies who had recently joined Marlene tried to escape. Abby's friends find and shoot at them, but they quickly get behind cover. The only one who doesn't attack is Owen, who has been trying to come up with a peaceful resolution to the entire conflict. He talks to his friends about letting them go, but gets into an argument with Jordan and Manny, just like what happened when Joel died in The Last of Us Part 2. During their conversation, Nora will flank around everyone and point her gun at the runaways. However, she would not shoot as she decides to hear her friends out. Jordan, being the hothead he is, will aim his gun at Owen, who grabs it and the two fight before hearing a gunshot. Owen accidentally kills Jordan, just like he did to Danny in the actual game. Manny and Nora will be infuriated with Owen, and the three of them will argue, giving their opponents the advantage. The older one shoots both Manny and Nora. "Come on, Sam, we have to go," Henry will tell his little brother as they flee, leaving Owen alive. Exhausted, Owen will sit in a corner in the room, looking at his friends' dead bodies, until he hears a voice call his name. It's Mel, and she takes him out of there. The two of them will talk about what they once fought for, and how they all became so obsessed with their conflict that they forgot about their true goals. They'll leave the Fireflies behind, along with Abby, who had died in the fight. Mel and Owen will get together a few months later and, in the story, live a peaceful and quiet life with their daughter. While some of these characters get their happy endings and others pass away, Sarah's story isn't over yet. In the winter, she, Tommy, and Eugene stay at a house in a small neighborhood that seems to be abandoned. The three of them want to live a simple, quiet life and think that they could turn this area into a community for people like them. One day, Sarah goes hunting and finds a deer. She kills it and encounters two men, David and James. They tell her about the lakeside resort, and as it seems to be what she, Tommy, and Eugene have been hoping to build, Sarah invites the two men back to her new home. As they all eat the deer, David tells the three strangers about his community, leaving out any details that could potentially make them not want to come. As it sounds great, the Millers and Eugene follow their new friends. At first, things seem great at the lakeside resort. However, I would like to use some dramatic irony at this point to reveal to the audience that David is a cannibal. This would add more tension to the story, as Sarah, Tommy, and Eugene would be completely unaware of what they are getting involved in. The three of them help the community out, but soon realize how limited their food supply is. When they ask David about it, he tells them that they have a group of men who go out to find food. Tommy and Eugene join the group, but soon learn how terrifying their new comrades are as they kill another group of people. Tommy and Eugene pretend to go along with the cannibals, not wanting to give them any reason to turn against them. When they return home, Tommy and Eugene find that Sarah is gone. As they look around for her, the cannibals attack and imprison them. It turns out that David was testing the two of them to see how they would react to learning what his men were up to, and those around them were able to tell that they did not agree with how they obtained their food. Meanwhile, Sarah is in a similar position to the one Ellie found herself in towards the end of The Last of Us Part 1. However, Sarah decides to manipulate David so she can come up with a plan to save Tommy and Eugene and find the right time to escape with them. In order to win her trust, David promises to not kill her uncle and friend, and while she doesn't trust him, she can't risk potentially making things worse at this time either. Sarah acts loyal to David, so he gives her more freedom than he gave Ellie and lets his guard down. When his followers leave the town again, David thinks that he and Sarah will have a romantic night, but she has other plans. Throughout the weeks, she learned exactly where David kept his prisoners. She kills David, along with the rest of the cannibals that stayed in the town, and saves Tommy, Eugene, and other people who David had imprisoned, which he had saved onto in the event that his followers could not find anyone or anything to eat for a long period of time. Sarah and her comrades wait for the cannibals to return and kill them, taking the lakeside resort for themselves. Some of the former prisoners leave, not wanting anything to do with the place, while others stay and turn it into their home. Sarah and Tommy, achieving similar goals to the ones they had as Fireflies but on a smaller scale, become the leaders of this group, with Eugene being in charge of the patrols people go on to find real food, kill infected, and help anyone in need. Over the next decade, the lakeside resort becomes a great place to live and welcomes many people, including a man that Sarah would fall in love with, and the two would have a son together, Joel. As Sarah has a lot to deal with, being the leader of this large community, she often comes home late. On her birthday, Joel waits for her to get back before he falls asleep, as he wants to give her a birthday gift, a watch. She opens the box and tears up as she puts it around her wrist. The end. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it's different from the content I usually make, but I want to experiment a bit and add more variety to the channel. In a couple weeks, I will upload a video that covers the best uses of symbolism in The Last of Us, so don't worry if you think that I'm going to stop working on that sort of content. However, I am also making videos about other games that I enjoy. While The Last of Us will still be my main focus, I'm going to eventually run out of ideas if that's the only series I focus on, and I hope you'll continue to support me in 2024 as I begin to analyze other games. Thank you for watching.